Hello, Nintendo Wii here, welcome back to Let's Play Retro Games, and welcome to episode 17 of Games I Got Recently. In this video, I'll be talking all about the London retro gaming market, which just happened the other day. I did manage eventually to get some footage from the event, so I'm going to pass you to myself from yesterday to show you some more. Thanks for watching so far, and stay tuned after, where I'll be going through all the games I picked up at the show. Hello, Nintendo Wii here, welcome back to Let's Play Retro Games. I'm here at the Retro Gaming Market in London, and it was really busy earlier, so I couldn't do an intro, but it's quietened down quite a lot. So I'm going to take the camera around and show you guys some of the stalls, and then show you some of my pickups a bit later on. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed looking at that. It was a fantastic event and I had a really fantastic time there. The first game I've got here is Star X for the Game Boy Advance. This is a game I used to have quite a while ago, but I actually lost it, so I'm really glad to get this back, and I think it was only a £5, so not too bad. The game's basically a Star Fox clone for the GBA, which was pretty impressive for the time. The gameplay is nowhere near as good, but the graphics are nice and it plays quite well on the Game Boy. Played it a bit at the train station while I was waiting for the train to come home. Next up, a game for the VECTREX, which is that system behind me there. I will be doing an episode on the VECTREX at some point. This game's called Spike, and it cost me £10. They had quite a lot of VECTREX games there actually, I was quite surprised, but I kind of ran out of money by the time I was thinking about going back to pick the other ones up. So I just chose to get one, and Spike's a pretty interesting platformer for the system. Released in 1983, it's actually one of the very first side-scrolling platforming games ever released, so really interested to try this game out, and I might put a bit of gameplay video over this actually. So I'll leave it over here and I'll plug it in a bit and we can see what that's like. Very excited. Next up, Game Boy Advance game. I spent a long time looking for a Game Boy Advance game because I forgot to take the Switch on the train with me, and I only had the Game Boy Micro. The Famicom Game Boy Micro I've got here. So I only had this with me and I wanted to pick up a game to play on it. And I did pick up Star X, but I knew that wouldn't really hold my interest very long. Especially as I wanted something to really sink my teeth into on the GBA. So I managed to find Final Fantasy IV. I actually thought I had this on the SNES, but it turns out I have Final Fantasy VI instead. So I was playing through that recently, and once I've finished playing through Final Fantasy VI, I'm going to dive into Final Fantasy IV. I heard the Game Boy Advance version is slightly better, with improved graphics and a few extra dungeons and characters, I think. Haven't actually given it a go yet because of something else I'll get to later, but very happy to find this. And it's brand new, complete in box with the manual, and it only cost 25 quid, so that's pretty good. Next up, a game for the Japanese Sega Saturn. I was on the lookout for Japanese games and there was a lot of games there, but unfortunately they were all in some box under the counter, so it was really hard for me to actually try and root through to have a look. This game was on the table out front, and it's one that I have been looking for. It was on my list. It's called Layer Section and it's made by Taito. A vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, released in the arcades back in 1995? Yeah, 1995 it says on the back. Released in Japanese arcades back in 1995, it's one of the very first bullet hell style vertical scrolling shooters. So very excited to have this, and I'll be plugging in the Sega Saturn and getting out the arcade stick and giving this one a go soon. So stay tuned for some gameplay on that. And that was 15 as well, I think. Next up, a game that I scoured the entire event for, and it took me a few hours to find it, but as soon as I did, I jumped in before anyone else could get it. This is one I've been looking for a long time, Tonic Trouble for the N64. Made by Ubisoft, actually the same team that did Rayman 2 on the N64. I believe this came out just before that game. And it looks really interesting. It looks very, very much like Rayman 2, which is a brilliant game, so I'm sure I'll enjoy this. And that was £20, complete in box. It's got the manual, cart's in excellent condition, so not bad. Next up, not quite as good condition, but one that I really wanted to get to try and finish off my Kirby collection. I've only got a few more to get. This is Kirby's Avalanche, the American version of Kirby's Ghost Trap, which is what we got here in the UK. It's another Puyo Pop clone. It's basically Puyo Puyo, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, all those kind of games. They're all the same, just cute characters and puzzle gameplay. So very happy to have the American version of this. Nice quality, nice condition, and it does have the instructions and also one of them Nintendo Power leaflet things as well. So really, really happy to get that. Another one for the Kirby collection. And does it have a price? I really can't remember how much I paid for this. I think it was either 10 or 15, but pretty decent. One of Rare's first games for Nintendo, and one that I hear really, really good things about, so I was very, very excited to find this one. This is RC Pro AM. The really interesting thing about this series is the fact that the N64 game, Diddy Kong Racing, was actually going to be Pro AM 64, and they changed all the sprites and the characters halfway through development, and it ended up being Diddy Kong Racing, which is one of the best racing games ever, by the way. So really, really excited to try this one. I haven't actually had a chance to play it yet, but I will do, and I might put up some video there, but if not, I'll probably do an episode about it in the future. And that was £8, says on the back. Next up, and this is why it's good to shop around a bit at these sort of events, Phantasy Star III for the Sega Mega Drive. The last Phantasy Star game that I needed on the Mega Drive, so really, really excited to find this. It doesn't have the manual, it's cart only, as you can see there, but for 15 quid you could not go wrong with that. I did find one at the event with a manual, but that was 40, so I thought save so much money to get it without the manual, and I can go and pick the manual up on eBay or see if it shows up in the future. So very, very excited to have that. It's not the best Phantasy Star game. For me, that's probably Phantasy Star II, but even so, the only one I've got left to get now is the Master System one. So if anyone's got it, they want to sell it, or if you can find it cheap anyway, definitely let me know, because I really want to get that to finish my Phantasy Star collection. Now we have a few original Game Boy games. Let's start with these three here. These were in a little box that were £3 each for the carts. They are... I think they're all Japanese games. Let's start with the first one, released by Konami for the Game Boy Color. This is Beatmania for the Game Boy Color. Really, really interesting to have a rhythm action game on the original Game Boy. It's really, really basic. It doesn't sound that great, and I don't really like the sort of early 2000s style music choices on this. I wish it was sort of more Japanese flavour, but I guess they were trying to appeal... Well, it is a Japanese game, so I don't really know what they were thinking with this one, but wasn't really too keen on it, but still for £3 it's a nice curiosity. Next up, a game that I used to love playing. I haven't actually gave it another chance since, so maybe it hasn't quite lived up to my memories of it, but it's this little game called Flipull. I used to have it in a 101 games in one cart. It's a cute little puzzle game where you move a little character around the side of the screen and you sort of push the blocks forward to make them explode and then move on to the next level. Next up, another Japanese game made by Taito. This is called PuzzNic. And this one is really difficult. I tried playing it a bit last night and I couldn't even get past the third level. That's how awkward the levels were in this. Let me see if I can... So it seems like a really interesting game, but it does seem really, really difficult. So if I was going to try and play this, I'd probably have to put quite a few hours into really mastering the sort of mechanics behind it. And one more game for the original Game Boy, and this was the one that was top of my list, so I was really excited to find this as soon as I got there. They had all the Game Boy games listed in alphabetical order, so I flicked straight to S and picked up this game, which is one of Gunpei Yokoi's very, very first programming projects, Solar Striker for the original Game Boy. A very, very basic vertical scrolling shooter with absolutely no options whatsoever. You press start and it goes straight into the game. But it's a really, really interesting game and it actually plays quite well despite its very primitive graphics. So I just sat down to start capturing some gameplay footage and I realised I forgot a game, possibly the most important game out of the whole lot. The only game that I don't have that's going to be on the SNES Mini, Contra 3, the Alien War. So I just wanted to add this bit of the video to make sure I didn't actually leave it out. Got it quite expensive, 35 quid, but definitely worth it. Fantastic game. And I'll just capture some footage right now. And that's it for games I picked up. I'm sure you'll agree that was a fantastic selection of games, and I could not be happier with what I picked up or the event in general. And I'm really looking forward to going to the next one in 4 months' time, as they seem to be making this into a regular thing now, so that's really exciting. Before I go, I did pick up a few magazines from Hyperplay. I've been meaning to get these magazines for a long time, so I was really happy to pick up all 4 of them. And the new art book that they've just released, The Art of RPGs. Really brilliant reads, and this is actually the reason why I didn't get round to playing Final Fantasy on the train on the way back. If you love RPGs or retro Nintendo games and old gaming magazines, I can highly recommend that you go on their website and pick these magazines up. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go and check them out. You can also follow them on Twitter at HyperplayGames. I think that's what it is. I'll put a link in the description as well. But yeah, can't recommend these enough. Fantastic reading material. And this book has some lovely fan art from loads of different RPGs. Even controversially, Zelda Breath of the Wild, is it an RPG or not? I'm not really sure. But they've got Tales of Symphonia, Suikoden, loads of really cool stuff. So, and Breath of Fire, one of my personal favourites. So if you love RPGs, I definitely recommend picking this book up, and it's great to see some fan art in this sort of form as well. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Nintendo Wii here, and here's another episode of Things I Bought Recently. Here's a box of chocolate fingers, a packet of half-eaten chewing gum, a Mac mouse,
Not that recent.
and a bird.